Talking to some of the best names in contemporary Christian music. This is the Hope FM Artist Interview.
People in the UK maybe don't know David Leonard themselves very well, and it'd be great if you could tell us a little bit about your story, your journey with Jesus, and how music came to be part of your life.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in Arkansas, which is the middle of the country. The natural state is what it's known for. No matter, I don't know what that actually means. It's just what it's called. But I grew up there, and grew up. My dad's been a pastor. He was a college pastor, and so I grew up kind of in ministry stuff, and kind of fell in love with music stuff when I was probably 15 or 16. And my dad was doing his college group, and I was like the only kid. It's a little small town, like 9,000 people. And he's like, hey, I don't have anybody to like lead worship. And that was kind of like the beginning. That was like the late 90s and early 2000s. And so it was like trying to figure out what that even was, because the majority of church songs for us in Arkansas were like the guy up there leading, doing his hand, like directing the choir kind of thing. So a guy with a guitar was very different for our area. And so I learned a couple songs, Open the Eyes of My Heart and stuff like that, and played those pretty much every week. But yeah, really kind of had no idea what I was doing with that. It was just a thing that I could do. I could play guitar, I could sing, but didn't really have the connection of what actually it meant to lead worship. I think obviously the foundation was being laid, but I was a kid. I was just learning, and ended up going to college. And for me, college, and I always heard my dad talk about this, that college was kind of the spot where your religion kind of becomes your own. When you're growing up, a lot of times religion is what your parents believe, or what your family has believed for forever. And you're just kind of a product of that. And when you go off to school, it's kind of the one time where you get to decide for yourself if this is going to be your path, or if it's not going to be. And for me,
so what were you, just to check before you carry on with that, what did you study? So you're talking about university, so you're probably like 18, 19. What did you go to study?
Music.
Oh, you were so okay. Well, that makes a lot of sense then.
Yeah.
So, and then while you were there, you had that. I guess for some people, it's a make or break moment when they hit university. They're either establishing their faith, or at that point they often walk away from it. But for you, it was an establishing moment.
It was an establishing moment. I was in a little small Christian school, but it was the first time where I felt like I got to choose for myself, and it got to become my thing, which was, liberating when you start to find God for yourself, and you can't rely on your parents to tell you what it's supposed to be. And it's been a continued journey. At that time, I ended up starting a band, and ended up starting. We started playing around, and ended up getting a record deal in Nashville, Tennessee. Ended up moving to Nashville in 2005, and we were kind of the all things to all people band. The band was called Jackson Waters, and like we could be the bar band, the church band, the whatever band, but like we just didn't know who we were writing songs for. Did that for a while, ended that, and I started playing keys for this band called Need to Breathe,
which is quite a big name.
It's a small little rock band out of South Carolina. They're still trying to make it happen, but
How did that come about, David?
I become friends with them. We actually got stuck in an elevator together. So back in the day, they used to have this thing called GMA Week here in Nashville, and all the artists would come from all over, and we'd spend a whole week at the Renaissance Hotel, and everybody would do their interviews, a lot of stuff for the year, and all that kind of stuff. And so my band, Need to Breathe, and another band called After Edmund, all got stuck in an elevator together for about an hour. And so that's where I became friends with them. So if you're looking for friendship, just get stuck in an elevator with someone.
I have been stuck in an elevator once with someone. I've got to say, I can't remember any of the people that I was stuck in that lift with, but I was probably unlucky because it clearly wasn't a band. Although I don't think any band would have me because I'm not very musical, sadly. So that's a good thing. You're stuck in it, and it all started from that friendship formed there. So so then you went on the road with you were playing keys for them, right? Is that right? Yeah, with Need for Breathe. And then what happened to that?
Oh, I mean, it was a sweet time. I loved it. There's still some of my closest friends. I still do a lot of stuff with them. But during that time, me and my wife were kind of walking through, I would
hold on a minute, David. You didn't mention you had a wife. When did that happen?
I got married like right out of college. So yeah, she's awesome. She's a teacher. She's a high school teacher. She's been doing that for forever. This is her 14th year doing this. So whenever we moved to Nashville, she started doing that. And so she's incredible. But during that time it was extremely difficult just because I was gone 30, 40 days at a time. And so we had developed individual lives, and which makes it hard on any kind of marriage. It doesn't matter if it's really, really good when you're not together. And that was before FaceTime and all that kind of stuff. So, and we lived on opposite schedules. She would get up at 6 a.m. and go teach all day, and I didn't wake up until 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And when she got out of school, I was doing sound check, and so it was just couldn't ever connect. And we ended up going to this small little church in Franklin called Journey Church. And she was like, I really want to go try out the small group thing because you're gone a lot, and I want community. And so we ended up going together, and man, the grace of the Lord just hit me like it never has before. Grace became like a real tangible thing. I had done everything I could in my life to kind of avoid those kind of scenarios. I didn't want people to hear my problems. I didn't want to hear their problems. But I sat around that circle of 12 people, and I listened to them share their stories, and I started sharing, and there was zero judgment. There was love. There was compassion. And for me, it started to awaken my eyes to what grace really, really was. And so for me, I began to long more and more for that community and for what God was doing there. And I ended up writing a song. I didn't really write worship songs previous. And so I remember I was with Need to Breathe, and we were in the northern part of the country. And I just decided I was going to go out and try to write a song, try to write a normal kind of song that I'd written before, and couldn't. I started thinking about those 12 people, and like this worship stuff started coming out, and I had no idea what to do with it. So I decided to send it to the worship pastor at Journey at the time. And I said, please don't share this with anyone. It's not a good song, but I just feel like I'm supposed to send it to you. And he said, man, this is so cool. He's like, there's another girl here at our church that wants to write songs for her small group. It's like, you guys should get together. And so he introduced me to this girl named Leslie Jordan. And we started getting together and just started writing songs for our church at Journey. We weren't trying to be a band. We weren't trying to be anything. We were just trying to simply, respond to what God was doing through our lives, through this community, and in turn give our community songs that were specifically for them. And then all of a sudden it was like a snowball. And so that was a crazy 7 years of pouring into our church and to being able to pour into the greater church. And it was nuts. It was a nuts season that I'm continually thankful for. And yeah, that season of my life has been one that I'll hold on to forever, of just what I've fallen in love with the church and fallen in love with creating for the church. And
you talked just about to jump back, you talked about grace, and how in that small group in Journey Church, you weren't judged, started to feel that you weren't judged, love, and you could share love, how you truly share, how you truly something that And is a struggle for so many people at church. Is a struggle for so many people at church because they want to have the appearance of, God and me've got it sorted, we're doing okay. God and me've got it sorted, we're doing okay. And it's a very British thing as well that if someone says, how are you? That if someone says, how are you? To reply with anything other than, is almost like, that's a strange thing to actually say how you are. That's a strange thing to actually say how you are, because, that's not how we work. Tell us a little bit about, how you experience God's grace. How you experience God's grace. For those people, maybe some people listening now, can you tell them, Christian Jet, what's so amazing about God's grace? What's so amazing about God's grace?
How much time we got?
Enough to hear your answer. Enough to hear your answer.
For me, grace was. It's hard, so hard to put in. It's hard, so hard to put in words because it is such words. Because it is such an. It was such an. I think grace was always words. I think grace was always words. Grace was always a word that I heard. Grace was always a word. Oh yes, you have grace. Oh yes, and it's like something that. And it's like until you walk through something. Until you walk through something that you actually need. You need forgiveness from. You need forgiveness from. It's really hard to understand. It's really hard to understand it because it's not a tangible thing that's like. Normal. And I think for me, it was a season of life where acceptance and love was hard to give to myself, to give when other people and when other extended it to me, it was something that allowed me to see that God had been extending to me the entire time, which is pretty mind blowing to think about. And I think grace is, I think it's one thing once you see it, it's hard to unsee, and it kind of stays with you forever. It kind of stays with you forever.
And God's grace is, the fact that He loves us, the fact that we don't deserve it. He loves us, and we don't deserve it. Even when we mess up, stop loving us. Always when we mess up, and He always wants to call us close to Him. Such a source of joy and revelation to me, again and again afresh, how His love actually never fails. How His love. So it's a lovely thing to talk about, David. Thanks. Can I ask about in your household? Now you mentioned your daughter is called River. Little daughter. What's your older daughter called? And how old is your older daughter called? And how old is she now?
And she's 10. Ella Kate.
Okay. And what's your wife's name? Okay. And what's your wife's name? So when Natalie, Ella Kate, you are all together, what sort of things do you like to do? What sort of things do you like to do to chill out?
Well, we listen to a lot of music. We listen to a lot of music, mostly Disney songs, and so like that. With two girls, they're always running around singing. We love getting out. We love getting pictures. They love making little movies and making little movies, and we love little adventures. We try to do that kind of stuff. We try to do that kind of stuff pretty often. But yeah, they're pretty special. They're pretty special.
Right, that sounds like a cool thing. So your favorite Disney movie is? Your favorite Disney movie is?
Hard, man. I mean, right now they're in. That's Encanto. That's everything to them. So, but it changes. Yeah, it changes with every new one that comes out. It changes. Every new one that comes out. It changes.
You didn't answer the question like a politician. I asked, "What's your favorite one?" You told me what's your favorite one. You told me their favorite one's Encanto.
Dude, what am I stuck with Disney, or am I stuck with Disney, or am I stuck with?
Yeah, you could. I will let you broaden it out. I will let you broaden it out. God, it doesn't have to be Disney then.
So many, because there's so many. Like, oh my gosh, because like I was a huge. I did love like Up. I love like Up.
Up's good. Up's good. For anyone who's in the UK, by the way, very similar to Terry Virgo. Does look very similar to Terry Virgo. Terry Virgo was the founder of a movement called New Frontiers. New Frontiers. But anyway, sorry. So Up's a great movie. Sorry. So Up's a great movie. That's a good choice. That's a good choice.
I don't know what else I can think of. There's all of them have like beautiful. Heartfelt moments. I don't know. They're all so good nowadays. It's hard to pick
that is probably true. From when I was a kid. You know what
I'm saying? Better. Like when I'm saying, I grew up in the 90s, and so I go back and I watch Little Mermaid, Aladdin, all those kind of things that kind of came out when I was like kind of growing up when I was. And the stories are pretty awful. And the stories are pretty really that good. Like they're not really that good. But you start watching new
you start
ones,
watching
like,
these
there's
new
so
ones, like,
much there's so much
there's
such
depth
depth
there's
to all of
such
them,
depth
and everyone's
to
got
all of them, and everyone's
bigger
got
story
a
and
bigger story.
so
I don't know.
so
It's kind of crazy.
I don't know.
It's kind of
And
crazy.
you mentioned listening to music in your family.
You mentioned listening to
What
music
about
in your family.
worship music.
What about
so because I'm
worship
guessing
music?
that
So, 'cause
sometimes
I'm
we all
guessing
worship.
that sometimes we all
I'm gonna put on
worship.
some
You
David
don't go,
Leonard.
I'm going to put
and
on
worship
some
that.
David Leonard.
Maybe you do. I
And
don't know
worship
because it's
that.
pretty cool stuff.
Maybe you do. I don't know because
No,
it's
they
pretty
turn
cool
it
stuff.
off real quick. No, they turn it off real
So
quick.
if you or your wife are choosing to
If you or your wife are choosing to
and you
have
want
a
to
worship
put in,
time,
I'm going to say a
and you want
CD,
to
but
put
who
in-
has
I'm going to say a
CDs these days?
CD,
I don't know.
but
Who has CDs
but
these
if
days?
you
I don't know.
hypothetically did,
But if
who
you
would be
hypothetically
going into
did,
that CD tray?
who would be going into that CD tray?
I mean, they I don't know. I don't know. They just don't. They just don't. They just think that that's what dad. They just think that that's what dad does. So they the worship music kind of the worship music. Oh, don't take because that's work. Oh, don't take because that's work. Like when I come home and I'm like, hey, listen. Like when I come home and I'm like, hey, listen to this real quick. They're just bugging them with what I'm bugging them doing with what. And they just want to get back to their movie. Just want to get back to their whatever they're listening to. So whatever they're listening. A lot of times, so that kind of a lot of times becomes that kind of stuff becomes and work to them. They don't want any part of it. They don't want any part of it. I think it's mostly. I think it's mostly we'll sing songs around by ourselves. We'll sing songs around by ourselves on not turn stuff on. One thing that has been fun. One thing that has been fun has been this new Helsa record that came out. Helsa record that came out. They've been doing they've been doing releases for all the songs. YouTube releases, and so when the songs have released, and so when the songs have released, all cuddled up on the couch and watched cuddled up on the couch and that's been really sweet. And that's been really sweet. So that I mean, I guess that's fun. So that I mean, I guess
That's pretty cool.
That's
Thinking about the Bible. Thinking about the Bible.
What's your favourite Bible character? Who do you most relate to? Who do you most relate to, and why?
It sounds cliche, but David. It sounds cliche, but David. Named after. Named after. Yeah, I mean, I think I've. Yeah, I mean, I think Psalms I lean into the Psalms greatly and relate greatly of this. God, where are you? But oh, you're good. Where are you? But oh, you're good. I feel that a lot of times. I feel like I feel that a lot of times. And even just the character of making bad decisions and still choosing to lean into God through it all. To lean into God through it all. And yeah, I think David is probably. I think David is probably who I relate to for sure. Most relate to for sure.
He's becoming a very choice in 2022. But that's okay. That's okay. For lots of different reasons. But he's definitely someone I think many creatives who also live a real life and authentic can go. I relate to David when he sings from his heart about stuff. I think that's one of the things that does come through in your tracks, David. Just how real they feel. They don't feel just like they've been made nice for just selling a lot of records. I do hope you sell a lot of records because your ministry you do need to deliver the rest of it. But it actually I think you sing from your heart in a really lovely way. So I really enjoy that. So David, when you're in ministry, when you're doing shows, when just doing life really, sometimes things don't go to plan. So do you have a story maybe of where things go wrong, but God puts it right?
Well, I mean, I think thinking about it, whenever we wrote "Great Are You, Lord," and I've told the story a bunch, but it's like whenever we wrote it, I did not like it. It was not a song that was even on my radar to be on the record. We were doing a live record, and I was like, no, I don't think this is it. I was not a huge fan of it. And I don't know why. It was just kind of one of those things that just whenever we wrote it, it didn't really hit me as one of those things of like, oh yeah, this is kind of, we should do this. And the more and more we sat with it, more people would speak in and going, hey, I think you should really do this. I think you should really do this. And like, no. And then enough people spoke in, which was the Lord in all ways, speaking through all these people of going, I think you should do this. And so the rest is history. We said yes, and then we're here. But that's been my constant reminder that I have no idea what I'm doing, and that I have to trust in the Lord in all things.
Well, that is extraordinary. So you're telling me, great are you, Lord, you were going to basically bin.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, that's a great example of God turning something around, because that is a glorious song, and I'm very glad that you didn't. So thanks for listening to everyone else's nudges. I love it, David. That's awesome.
You've been watching The Artist Interview. For the full podcast, click the links below or visit hopefm.com/The Artist Interview.